It is so wonderful to be here today. We're going to kick us off with a little game of branding bingo. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you an image and I want you to guess what is the brand associated with this image. Okay, you ready? So the first one, what is the brand associated with this image? Yes, Cadbury. So Easter's coming up. I definitely prefer Cadbury's over Lindt, just a little tip. What about the next one? Apple, yes. Who had an iPod back in those days? Everyone else with their hands out was clearly a fetus because some people are like, what is that? What is the next one? What is the brand that was represented? Qantas, yes. And what's interesting about branding is we could be in the middle of Asia, we could be in the middle of America, the middle of Europe, and you might think of your own airline because branding is often very regional specific, isn't it? What about this last one? The last one is Tiffany's, of course. What gave it away? The blue and white box. But you know, you look at that image, it's beautifully designed, she's wearing beautiful things, but you kind of think to yourself, if you've got that many boxes, why does she look so sad? You know, there's another brand, of course, that I know all of you know, and that is Coca-Cola. What you may not know was the guy who wrote that script writing. His name was Walter Landor, and he said this quote, "The products are made in the factory, but brands are created in the mind." And just think about that. What does that mean to you? It's about the experiences. It's about that story. But you know, interestingly, it's about perception. So our brands exist in the minds of others. And you know, today, just as Helen said, we're talking about this concept of leadership. And isn't it the same? That as a leader, our brand is built in the minds of others. So what do people think of us? And how can we influence that? You know, in many ways, connection is the currency of leadership. So all the things that we just heard Andrew talk about, all of these things have an effect on what someone thinks of us and how that lingers. You know, it reminds me, just recently over Christmas, I went to visit my grandma, and I don't know if you've had this experience, but you lean in and you smell that beautiful perfume. And what happens when you leave, it's like it lingers all day, doesn't it? Who else has had that experience? And of course, we want it to be a good experience, don't we? Because the opposite can be true as well. And so that's what it's like with our leadership brand. How do we get that to linger through the interactions, through the experiences that we have with people, whether that's with our teams, our stakeholders, or also with our clients? Because the reality is right now, the winds are blowing strong, aren't they? There's a lot of things, no matter how great your leadership might be, there's so many things that can create distractions. So what are some of those headwinds? Well, I don't know, maybe you've had this moment recently where someone says, "Hey, did you get my message?" And you think to yourself, was that on Teams? Was that on TikTok? Was that on email? Oh no, wait, it was one of my 300 WhatsApp messages. WhatsApp, who has a few WhatsApp messages going on? Did you know since COVID there's been a 30% increase in the number of communication channels? So if you're feeling overwhelmed right now, it's because there is a lot going on. I remember the days, who remembers the days where you would sit on a couch and we'd all just watch the one telly? Anyone remember those days? Yes, I remember those days too. Well, what's it like today? It's a bit more like this, isn't it? The TV is still on, but everyone is looking in their own devices. And this is the context in which we're trying to engage our leaders, we're trying to engage our teams, we're trying to engage our customers. And one of the senior leaders at Ogilvy put it like this. He says that we live in an era of media abundance and yet attention scarcity. So we're trying to get our message across, we're trying to build that connection, and yet there's so many different things going on. And not only do we have overwhelm, the wind of overwhelm, we also, of course, have technology. Now, there's going to be so many great speakers we're going to hear from that will talk about the rapid advancement of technology that we have at the moment. But how does that intersect with human connection? Because at the moment, we've got incredible promise, don't we? That the more technology we get, you know, the more innovative we'll become. The more technology we'll get, the broader our horizons. The more technology we'll get, my gosh, the better our connection will ever be. But actually, in our day-to-day, I wonder, is it a little bit more like this? Has anyone had an experience like this recently?
Tyler
has joined the meeting.
All right, well, this is Trip. Who's here?
Tyler's here.
Beth's here.
Okay, the purpose of today's meeting is to discuss the...
Yeah, I'll be able to do it in like 30 minutes. John?
Has joined the meeting.
Hi, John.
Hi.
I was just trying to go over the purpose of today's meeting, which is to discuss the
Tyler?
Has joined the meeting.
Sorry, guys, I got cut off. Is Paul here? Send him an invite.
Put in your access code.
No, that's your PIN number.
It should be a 9-digit number.
Try pressing the pound key. Paul.
Has joined the meeting.
Any questions before we move on?
Yes, this is Beth. What's our best plan of attack for the second quarter?
Question
What
actually.
we should do.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, I think
Well,
what we should do.
it
is
actually
really
depends on
diversify.
how you look at it,
No,
'cause
and
the
really
re-
come.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I think what
Given
we-
sales,
what we
we're at
really-
a
I think
Let me just say that
Okay.
that's a great graph, John. Tyler?
Well, my main concern with the projections from last year was that they're just insufficient. I mean, they're not even taking into account.
Did we lose Tyler again?
Nope.
So let's be honest, who's had a moment like that in the last 2 weeks? Yeah? That for so many of us. So not only are there more channels than ever before, but we're also trying to understand this intersection of how the technology we have and making it work. And one of the other significant wins of change and impact right now is disengagement. Now, every year, Gallup puts out a survey, which is called the State of the Global Workplace Report. It surveys 100,000 people in about 160 countries. And it's revealing a concerning trend. If you were to guess the number of disengaged people right now, what would you guess that out of 100,000 people, how many people said they were disengaged? Call out a number. What do you reckon it would be? Well, if someone knows it over here, yes, that is right. It is 77%. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine when you think about your workplace, when you think about the workplaces that you go into and you look around at those people, 77% have said they're disengaged. Is that right? Lisa has a very terrible face and it is devastating. And our average in Australia is about the same. That's across sectors, of course. But if you think about that, 15% usually are active disengaged. That number's about right. That means 62% is coming to work, watching the clock. And when you consider that, you think about the cost of living, how many people are just staying because it's safe right now. But what sort of life are they living? And what is the impact of that on the work that they're doing? And I think if we positively frame that, what an opportunity. What an opportunity if we could unlock that potential through the work that all of us do in these organisations. What an opportunity that could be. And that's what the Connect effect is all about. It's about if, as leaders, connection is the currency, the Connect effect is the powerful effect that we can have in workplaces and in teams and with customers. And it's built on, and you think about what it does. When we unlock that spark of connection, we cultivate high performance, we revitalise cultures, and we help put people's passions into action. I think that is probably one of the most important things, that people go to work, but they love what they do. And you think about what goes into this. There's 3 key factors. It's about trust. So how do we get that attention and keep that attention? It's about tribe. And I love that we've already talked about tribe already today, how important that is to sustain that engagement. And that's through the rhythms and rituals that we do. And the final part is to thrive. And of course you think thrive and it's like flourishing, that's amazing. But actually, how do we strengthen and repair those connections when things inevitably do go wrong? I don't know, did anyone have a pandemic 5 years ago, for example? How do we adapt and be agile? So today, just in the remaining moments that we've got, I'm going to explore this topic of trust a little bit more. Now, we already started to touch on it with Andrew. We're going to go a little bit deeper. Because again, if you look at some of the data coming out of the Edelman Trust Institute, if you get this right, it has a significant impact on our business. Now look at this, 67% of consumers are more likely to stay loyal to a brand they trust. And isn't that right? We get a vibe of that, don't we? Once we trust a brand, we're more likely to pick it. We don't think of our choices and we reach for that product. But we could change consumers for leaders, for teams, couldn't we? We could intersect this idea with just the logic of how we work as humans. And McKinsey did some interesting work in 2021, which perhaps suggests what some of the issue is around that 77%. 46% of employees consider a lack of trust as a reason to leave. So this could be critical for unlocking that piece. So what are some of the things that we could do? And it's interesting, if I was to go around and survey each of you, like what does trust mean? Actually, you'd probably all say something different. It's one of those words, like what does it mean? So in my opinion, I'll give you 3. I think trust is about personal trust. Do I do what I say I'll do? And you'll measure that through consistency, and isn't that important for our leaders and for us? But it's also about public trust. It's like, what's the story that we have about people before we even walk into the room? How are we communicating? How are we representing ourselves? And we measure that through credibility. And if you're here on Monday, we're actually running a deep dive into this section about how you can build your brand and communicate that in a way that's real and authentic to you. And the final one is actually what we're talking about here is about relational trust. So how do we build these deep connections? And we evidence that by connection. But do you know what happens in those moments? It's where people feel safe enough to speak up. It's where someone can make a mistake and be okay with that. It's where I can ask a question and not be shot down. And I've worked around in so many different organisations where I talk to the junior staff and they say, I don't feel comfortable talking up. And I'm reminded of a little story when I went looking at a person who went to Japan recently. Who's been to Japan? Anyone? I always look at your Instagram photos and I'm so jealous. I just wish that I could go as well. It's funny, a guy who's a friend of mine, he's a middle-aged white guy who's also a lecturer, so just get that picture in your mind. I feel like it could be our previous speaker, actually. So someone in our mind, he went to Japan, and when he was there for the first time was called a wild barbarian. And I was like, what? What do you mean? And it was just simply the things that he was doing. So he spoke a little loudly on a plane, he blew his nose very loudly on a train, and there was all these social faux pas that he didn't even realise he was messing up. But the worst part was no one told him. You know, it's funny, my dad, this is a photo of my dad. He used to work at a Japanese company back in the 80s. If you look at that photo long enough, what do you spot? Isn't it funny? Not just the phone, but also cigarettes. Isn't it hilarious? He worked out pretty quickly. It was actually less about the way he did business and more about the social etiquettes. So don't leave before the boss does. Eat whatever's put in front of you, even if it's chicken feet. And of course, make sure you slurp your noodles. But he discovered this concept, which I just want to share with you in the remaining moments, which is called the ancient art of tatame and hon. Now, this is very well known in the Japanese culture. And tatame, which is about the outward facade, it's about the mask. And it is held to create that social harmony and respect. And hon is a true song of self. But this was only reserved for people that were very, very close to you. But I'm curious, as leaders, we talked about your leadership brand. How does this flow through in the workplace? What happens when we wear our mask too much at work? And I just wonder, I want to ask you a question. Who had one of these? Who owned one of these? Yes? Who still uses one of these? Nobody. Isn't that interesting? The good old Nokia phone, which of course are making a comeback. But this is a story of what happens in a workplace where people wore their masks too much. What happened in 2010? We talked about Apple. I actually had the photo up probably around the same era that this happened. That the people at work were too afraid to speak up. The leaders didn't want to hear it. And what happened as a result? An entire room full of people who had this opportunity, had this phone, no longer do. And so it just begs the question then, how do we want to be as leaders? There's a few facts, of course, that reinforce this. Trust literally changes brain chemistry, and we've already heard some of those before in terms of the trust hormone oxytocin. It creates an environment of psychological safety. And in fact, this is a lead indicator for a high-performing team because I'm safe enough to speak up. But I think this is interesting as well. It avoids artificial harmony, where everyone doesn't just agree with each other, where people might be safe enough to speak up. And I think this is an opportunity for us to consider. So the final thought I just want to ask you is, where are you as a leader wearing your mask too tightly? And I think this is the revealing one, particularly for leaders, is where do people around me hold back? And what is the cost of that? I just want to sum this all up with a final quote from Patrick Lencioni, who's done some great research on this in high-performing teams, and it's this, that the key ingredient to building trust is not time, it's courage. And so as leaders, and as people who work with leaders, we need this more than ever. Thank you very much.
Play, 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 and I hear